And that worked out perfectly because it looks like Ivy is joining us now. Hello to Ivy.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good, we're just getting started. Thanks for being here this evening. I was sharing with the group that our back porch chat tonight will go for about an hour, and I will stay online for anybody who wants to continue the conversation after that. Back Porch Chats is a series that's focused on the 5 protective factors, which we'll talk about this evening. And in particular, today, we're going to focus on parental resilience. So I'm Joe Coffey. I'm the Director of Prevention Services at One Place. Some of you may know us formerly as the Onslow County Partnership for Children. And I wanted to share a little bit with you guys about the problems that we're trying to solve at One Place. And you can see those 3 problems on the screen here. The first one being child abuse. And of course, we all know child abuse is a complex problem that has long-lasting and harmful effects and happens more than you can imagine. And one of the things that is in the work of prevention is often as an obstacle is that people don't recognize child abuse as their problem. It's not something perhaps happening in their home or impacting their lives. And so we like to make sure that we're hoping and that we're helping people to recognize child abuse is not someone else's problem. It is a problem that all of us share in our community. The other issue that we're trying to solve is mental health, because we know that without treatment, children who suffer from adverse childhood experiences, such as child abuse or neglect, are going to be set up to face many, many challenges going forward in their life, including forming healthy relationships, regulating emotions, and living a physically healthy life. I'm going to say hello to Lawana, who's also joining us. Hi, Lawana. We're glad you're here. We've just gotten started and we are recording, so I just want to make sure that everybody that joins us is aware of that. So the third problem that we're trying to solve here at One Place is around finding resources. We know that families often aren't sure where to turn to get help or the resources that they need. And as families move into the community, it can be difficult for them to know what the community has to offer or how to access those things. That can be challenging for families in all communities. It can certainly be challenging for families in Onslow County because we know that we are a military community. And so we have families who are moving in and out of our community all the time. So those are the problems we're trying to solve, and what approaches are we using? So what you see in front of you is the 10 facts flyer. And I will email this out after our back porch chat tonight. I'll email it out to you all in the morning, along with some links to a couple of the videos that we're going to watch. And so our approaches to solve the problems that we're trying to address is by creating a set of programming that can assist parents with the situations and experiences that come up around those problems. And so one of those approaches is our child care resource and referral program, which is really a hub of information for parents and for children. And it helps people to choose high quality child care. It helps people to be able to identify what that looks like. It also gives them a place to touch base for other resources that are available in the county, such as subsidy. And you can see right to the right of that child care resource and referral hub, fact number 6 does say child care subsidy. And so we do help connect people with the subsidy program in our county that helps support the cost of quality child care. We also have our early Head Start programming. We offer a center-based program and we offer a home visiting-based program for children and families. In addition to that, we have our 3-school program, which is a high quality 6.5-hour preschool day that does have licensed and educated teachers. That is for children who turn 3 by August 31st. And then its counterpart is our NC Pre-K program, which is for children who turn 4 by August 31st. We have a set of literacy programs, which include Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, the Story Walks at the Park, Little Free Libraries. Some people know the Little Free Libraries as they look like birdhouses sitting on posts a lot of times, and it's a give a book, take a book program. And we also do book drives. In addition, we offer Triple P, which is a positive parenting program that's designed to help take the guesswork out of parenting and equip parents with some skills, language, and approaches for them to be able to use with their children interventively and preventively around children's behaviors and helping them to understand child development. We know that brains are built, they are not born. And so we offer a training and technical assistance program for early childhood educators to help ensure high quality programming is happening around our county. And of course, we also offer our Child Advocacy Center. And that program is designed so that children who have experienced abuse or neglect have a place where they can come with trained professionals where they can tell their story one time instead of having to live through the re-traumatization of telling their story multiple times. And of course, our community invests in our children. And so we operate with the idea of philanthropy and creating avenues for our work to continue beyond the careers of all of the people who are currently doing that work. So again, that's a little bit about our approaches, and I will send that 10 facts flyer out to you. So this is a little peek at what our agenda will look like tonight. For anyone who wasn't able to join us last week, we'll have a welcome and an introduction to the 5 protective factors. Today we have 2 videos and discussions. And if you recall from last week, if you were with us, that we do have some questions that I have prepared. But we don't need to get married to those questions, because when we watch those videos, I want to know mostly what questions you have, and I want you all to lead the discussion. So the first part of our Back Porch Chat, you will hear me talking a little bit, and then as we move through the Back Porch Chat, I'm hoping that we're really going to be hearing you all talking and having a discussion about your experiences and your knowledge as parents. And then I do have a group activity as well. I'll share some resources with you guys, and then we'll do our closing. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I am going to ask you all to answer a very short 2-question poll. And so it will ask you just to click on a scale of 1 to 5 the answer to these 2 questions. So here we go. And you should be able to see it on your screen now. Can you see it, Glenda? All right, it looks like everybody has answered. So I'm going to share the results with you guys as well. All right, you should be able to see the results on your screen. And so we've got some people who have a little bit of knowledge about the 5 protective factors, and we have some people who have a little bit more. Same thing about parental resilience. It looks like we have some people who have a little bit of knowledge around parental resilience and some people who have a little bit more. So we will look at those things as we're moving through here, and then there'll be a quick poll at the end also to kind of ask those 2 same questions, and then there's a 3rd question. So I'm going to share my screen again. And we're back to our friend, the agenda. And we're going to look a little bit now at the 5 protective factors as a whole. So I want to thank everybody again for taking time to be here with us this evening. I know you all have busy lives. You've got demands on your time. And One Place really wants to make sure that you understand we are so appreciative that you are willing to join this conversation as we work toward our goal of hoping to end child abuse. And so this is a reminder to anybody who was here last week, and new for anyone who was not. This is really a place where we want to have the opportunity to share our experiences and talk about our truths. We want this to be a place where people can contribute their thinking, experiences and ideas, and it's a no judgment zone. We want people to ask the questions that they would like to have the answers to. And we'll do our best as a group to find those answers together. So the 5 protective factors was developed originally by the National Alliance for the Children's Trust and Prevention Funds. And they came up with the Strengthening Families Protective Factors Framework, which is a national and really an international initiative that's aimed to develop and enhance 5 specific characteristics. And you see those on your screen. We call them the 5 protective factors. Those 5 protective factors, when in place, will help families be strong and keep children safe from abuse and neglect. So one of the things that we like to share with people when we're thinking about these 5 protective factors is we really want to take a strengths-based approach and have a strengths-based lens. So when we're thinking about families and we're thinking about what's happening in their lives, we want to really focus on the strengths because every family has strengths. And so we might see a home where it may appear cluttered to me or to you. And so rather than looking at the clutter, what we're going to be looking at and thinking about from a strengths-based lens is, what are we seeing? Are we seeing the counters are covered with dishes? Well, the good news about that is we know that people are eating. Are we seeing laundry baskets that are overflowing on the floor? Well, the good news about that is that everybody has clothes to wear. And so thinking about things from a strengths-based lens really gives us the opportunity to celebrate the strengths that families have going on and be able to help reinforce those, but then also help to build a relationship so we can get them the resources they need for areas where maybe they don't have as much strength. And so the 5 protective factors framework came from the Center for the Study of Social Policy, really was a measure of prevention for children, families, and communities. And again, what we know is when these 5 protective factors are in place, we have a better chance for positive outcomes. And so when we look at the 5 protective factors individually, I'm going to just share a little bit. Social emotional competence, which you see in pink here, is the one of the protective factors that's really focused on children. The rest of these are focused on the adults living in the household. And so what we know about social emotional competence is that children's early experiences of being nurtured and developing positive relationships with caring adults affects all aspects of their behavior and their development. And so when children have some social emotional competence and they're able to use vocabulary to express themselves, they're able to read social cues, read visual cues on people's faces, they can be more successful, and therefore their parents will be less likely to have a situation in which children could be experiencing abuse or neglect. Another of the protective factors is social. And again, the rest of these protective factors focus on the adults in the household. So parents with a social network of emotionally supportive friends, families, neighbors, people at church, whatever that social network or connection might look like, often find that it's easier to care for their children and for themselves. And we know that self-care is super important. Concrete supports is a third protective factor. Families who can meet their own basic needs, like things like food, clothing, housing, transportation, and who know how to access essential services like childcare, healthcare, mental health care that can address family-specific needs. Those families are better able to ensure the safety and well-being of their children. And so next week, we're going to focus on social connections and concrete supports. Last week, we focused on knowledge of parenting and child development because we know children thrive when parents provide not only affection, but also respectful communication and listening, consistent rules and expectations, and safe opportunities that can promote independence for children. Parents become less frustrated with their children when they understand that a behavior is developmentally appropriate. So for instance, we talked a little bit last week about this. If a toddler is biting, if parents understand that the reason that they're biting is because they lack the social and language skills to express their needs, then they can understand that that biting is a behavior that's being used to express their needs, and it can be less frustrating for parents. And then the last protective factor that is on our list here, and the one we're going to talk a little bit more about today, is parental resilience. Parents who can cope with the stresses of everyday life and bounce back, as well as an occasional crisis, have resilience. They have some flexibility and inner strength that is necessary to bounce back when things are not going well. And so just as we did last week, I'm going to stop sharing for a quick second, and I'm going to switch screens because I have a video from our friends at Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina to chat a little bit about parental resilience. So let me get that pulled up for us. And
thank you all for participating. Now I want
are
to
you
get
able to
back
hear her?
into talking about our new protective factor of the week. So one way that Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina make sure that communities have the knowledge, skills, and resources they need to prevent child abuse and neglect at the local level really is by strengthening the protective factors and giving them the skills and resources they need to help families. So, the 5 protective factors serve as buffers and help parents find resources, support, or coping strategies that allow them to parent effectively, even under stress. So, on Monday, March 30th, last week, we introduced our first protective factor of the week, which was parental knowledge of child development and parenting skills. So, as we head into this new week, we're highlighting a new protective factor. And that protective factor is going to be parental resilience. So, parental resilience is the ability of parents to deal effectively with stress, adversity, or trauma. It's especially critical to the health and well being of children and families. So, stress is caused by pressures that are placed on parents, including life changes like moving, unexpected events like losing a job, individual factors like substance abuse, social factors like feeling lonely or isolated, and community, societal, or environmental factors and conditions like a global pandemic. So there is extensive research that shows how parents respond to stressors is actually more important than the stressors themselves in determining the outcomes for themselves, their children, and their family as an entire unit. Parents are resilient when they're able to bounce back from stress and trauma and manage adversities that are facing their family. But it's important to note that resilience is not something that you're born with. It's something that you learn over time and create for yourself within your community and with supports in your community. Some tips for building parental resilience include eating healthy, exercising, getting enough sleep, keeping a self care journal as a reminder to practice self care, practicing mindfulness, taking a pause or a mental break when needed, being okay with asking for help, and seeking those social connections in your life so that you can thrive. An important step to begin building resilience is acknowledging that you and your children have strengths. Take a moment to reflect on those strengths that you exhibit and that your children exhibit and write them down. Think about what you and your family need during this stressful time. Do you need to talk to a friend? Do your children need more consistent routines? Once you can identify what you need, what your family's specific needs are, you can find resources to help fill those needs. And finally, parenting is stressful in general, especially during this uncertain time. It's important to remember that no parent is perfect and you're doing a great job. So stay tuned later this week for a video highlighting how.
Well, if you were with us last week, you heard the conversation about sometimes as a parent, we fall into the trap of thinking that we're not enough. We're not doing enough. We don't know enough. And guess what? We are all enough. And so I want to kind of talk about what resilience is, and you've heard a brief explanation from me. You've heard our friends at Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina share in the video we just watched. According to the National Alliance for Children's Trust and Prevention Funds, prevention, kind of simply defined, means the ability to recover from difficult life experiences, and often to be strengthened by and even transformed by those experiences. Resilient parents have empathy for themselves and others and are able to keep a positive attitude. They can solve problems creatively, and they can take life's events in stride. So really what I'm saying is they're able to bounce back. And one trait that we know parents who show resiliency share is that they practice self-care. And I cannot stress that enough. We have to be able to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. So now comes the fun part. I need to hear from you guys. So the first question that we have is, to you, what does resilience look like in your life? You can feel free to unmute. If you're not comfortable talking in the group, you can put it in the chat. Blake, I saw you unmuted.
I mean, for me, the resiliency, how I was always told about it, it's not about how powerful of a wall you are, it's how powerful you're able to take a hit or be able to bounce from something and kind of ease that rubber band back kind of aspect. So not snapping on an individual, it's not kind of going crazy. As a Marine, obviously, I'm kind of prone to going and snapping at people, but over time, that's one of the things you use, using resources, understanding different ways and logic of how to confront different issues is definitely, a little bit easier. So having things where you get experiences and getting other people, hey, this is something I do. Some people take like three breaths when there's an instance, because with resiliency, you're not trying to prevent something that should be preventable. It's things that you can't necessarily prevent against, or these outliers, whether it's stressors like things that you just don't know. It's not what you can prevent to get anything done, it's what can you do to help yourself. Having those strict regimens that you're taking care of yourself, you're doing this. Those are good things that, at least in my eyes, like going to the gym or something. Instead of me, getting my stress out on my kids or family, anything like that, it's, hey, I'll go run. That's something that I like to do. I like to go run. I can clear my head. I can think of what I needed to do, get things done. It's just my me time. I'm not trying to run fast. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like a fast runner or anything, but that's one of the things that you're out there. Not necessarily have headphones. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. For me, that's what I like to do. And to get back to the question, kind of going down a rabbit hole about what everything for the resilience and how I feel about it, is that ability to take something that you weren't expecting, be able to hit with it, be able to stand back up and not snap. We don't know sometimes our limits. We don't know whether that rubber band was in the freezer or that rubber band is ready to rock and roll to kind of take that impact. If you're going to get impacts, you just don't know. I feel like that's probably my stake on it, is just be able to bounce back but not snap back with situations that you sometimes can or cannot control.
Blake, you have made some really powerful points, and I appreciate you adding that to the conversation. And one of the things that I heard in what you were saying is sometimes it's situational how much resilience that you might have. So I appreciate you adding that. And I wanted to share with you, in case you didn't see, Kimberly said in the chat that she's a runner too, it looks like. And Luana had shared that for her, it's the awareness of how I am impacted by a particular event and how I respond as a result of that event. Was it a healthy response? What am I doing or can I do to center myself as a result of my learning? So I appreciate you both adding that to the conversation. Sarah, I saw you unmuted. What would you like to add?
I think I could fill up a journal with some of Blake's momentum phrases. Gosh,
we're going to call them Blakeisms.
I could write a book on your Blakeisms. Something that kind of triggered with me based on what he was saying was kind of giving yourself permission to do that self-care, not being so entrenched in, your responsibilities or your expectations of being the perfect parent, the perfect spouse, giving yourself permission and kind of the autonomy to do that self-care for yourself to be better overall. So yeah, which is
Thank
kind
you.
of hard to do sometimes.
Thank you for sharing that, because we are probably harder on ourselves than anybody else, right? We're always our own worst critics. Glenda, what would you like to add?
So a big one for me, and the older that I have gotten, the more I've realized, and she talked about it, that asking for help. Sometimes, especially at any age, but especially when your kids are younger, it's not shameful to call a friend, a relative, and say, I just need an hour. And sometimes it's just you get somebody's teenager to come over and stay while you take a bath, go for a walk, but just knowing that asking for help is not a failure, that's really a strength. And the more we can do that and know that, you're not in this alone, that there are people out there that are willing to help and want to help, just like you want to do that for someone else. So for me, it's, being willing to ask for help, ask for somebody just to listen to, let you rant and rave for a few minutes and then help you reel it back in and say, okay, you got that out, but let's look realistic at, the situation and brainstorm on how we can help you get through, this next hour, this next week or day, whatever it may be.
Sometimes it is hour by hour, isn't it, Glenda? And I
Cool.
love what you're saying. Blake, did you want to add?
Yes. So I love how you said that you get to ask for help. But one of the things I've noticed, and I'm pretty sure everyone can kind of speak, the younger and younger the generations of either parents or getting brand new married or stuff like that, there's something on the chip on their shoulder where they feel like they don't want to ask. For me, I deal with a whole bunch of young Marines all the time, and I'm asking them, like, just like how you were saying, like, case in point, I had a Marine, it just had a kid, and he was just like tired and crazy all night, and he didn't understand, like, there's other things. Like, hey man, I'm a dad as well, I can kind of help you with some of these things. And oh sir, that would be awesome. I feel like today's society, one of the things that we could do on different generations wise is just ask, like, hey, do you need help? Yes, people should be asking, but do you need help? Kind of putting that forward that, oh, it's okay to ask for help, because today's society is so scared and so petrified of asking for help, because I was one of those victims as well. I thought you just had to be that person that you could do it all. It's only you, but it's that having that village to raise your kids. It's not just you. What's the best for your kids? It's not just one person. It's a team. Whether or not that team's 2 people, 5 people, 100 people, that's how I always felt about it. But I definitely agree with that, because I was on the other side. I should have always asked for help on different things, and that's just one of those things I was like, yeah. But I just want to add my 2 cents on that.
Well, I appreciate everybody sharing information about what they think resilience looks like. I'm wondering if anybody has some thoughts about why resilience is important. And we have touched on that a little bit in what we've talked about already. But if I frame the question as why is resilience important, what jumps to your head?
I think the pandemic is the perfect example. How many people thought they could be stuck in their homes? For some people, it's been over a year. And, dealing with school for kids and jobs and illness and isolation and all of that, that I think people coming on the other side are seeing, I made it. I did it. And I think that when you can try to find something positive in any situation, I think that helps with your resilience, because after a while, that that's kind of your thinking, that this might be really bad right now and it might be horrible, but there's going to be something positive I get out of this, something I learned, something happened, someone I meet. But I think the pandemic has shown us that we're there's a lot of resilience around us.
Well, I often hear people say the old phrase that it takes a village to raise children. And what you said just now, Glenda, made me think we all need a village too, as adults, to help support us. Who else would like to add something to that question? Why is resilience important?
Well, I think part of the resiliency factor is you have to be well in order to do more, to do things. If you're not well and if you're not complete and doing for yourself, what are you cascading out to your family, to your friends, to your work environment? It kind of starts within. And I don't think we take a large enough focus on starting within and how that cascades out.
Thanks, Sarah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is resilience is important because children in homes are less likely to be abused when parents have some resiliency and when they're able to deal with their stress in a way that doesn't turn into kind of that explosion, right?
I was gonna say that about the stress. Like when you're resilient, the stress isn't allowed to go past so you've got layers. Like it's not able to penetrate the layers of your psyche. It's not able to. The perfect example, I think, like an ignorance is bliss until it turns into abuse, and that's like the resilience. If you don't know how to be resilient, then you don't know what you don't know. I think that was said last week, and it's the truth. You don't know what you don't know.
Susan, I am writing as fast as I can. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Ignorance is bliss until it turns into abuse. Is that what you said? Correct.
And that is straight from Susie Herring's brain. When I think about that, it's a huge, I'm a very visual person, so that's what I visualize, I guess. And Mariah Woods, the case of Mariah Woods comes to mind. I feel like they just didn't know how to manage stress, and that ended up bad, So things
Absolutely.
bad can happen even when you don't intend it to.
Oh my gosh, you guys are blowing me away. I can't write fast enough with everything. One thing that I hear kind of as a common thread. Oh, sorry, Blake, you unmuted? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So one of the things that you're saying, hey, the layers, and I just kind of thought about it. Well, is it resilience or is that the ability to endure? Looking at that, resilience for me, the endurance, how you're saying there's so much stress that's going to keep eating you away and stuff like that. There's that aspect of it, or is it the resilience side, something where you're able to take that and you're able to push it back? You can endure, and eventually you're going to break. You're going to be that log on that creek that was just one day is going to give in, or you can be able to, as the resilience side, try to push back and get back to that whatever normacy, utilizing that regiment or that set standards of what you're doing to get yourself back. I feel the only difference between the enduring and resiliency is having something to improve your overall mental or your mental psyche and things like that. I just felt like that was one of the things I just want to kind of mention with it, because they're very similar, but they're going to be two different things, two different goals. Resiliency to get back to where you were, if not better, or enduring, sitting down, hunkering, and taking it. Those are two different things that where are we at, because you can only endure for so long.
That's a powerful point, Blake. And one of the things that the National Alliance says is that resilient parents have the capacity often to be strengthened by or even transformed by these experiences. So to me, that would be the strengthening, or the transforming would be the resiliency piece, as opposed to the example you gave of enduring or the log breaking. That is really, really powerful. And one of the things that I hear kind of as a common thread, unless I'm hearing this group wrong, and you could tell me if I am, is we really have to have some empathy for each other and what's happening in our lives behind our closed doors or at work that nobody knows about. And so I found a video that I think you'll enjoy because it's by one of our favorites, Dr. Brene Brown, on empathy. So I'm going to share my screen and then we'll chat about that. Nope, wrong video, Joe.
Partner's Safe Child enhances parental resilience in Wake County.
All right, here we go.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
All right, guys. So in this video, we heard Dr. Brene Brown discuss empathy, and we've talked a little bit about that. So tell me why you think empathy is important. Susan, you added something to the chat I'm going to share. It says, like the mom in the grocery store, that toddler is throwing a fit in the middle of the aisle, and rather than giving dirty looks, how about giving a smile and saying, hey, this will pass. You're a great mom. I've been that parent that had a child throwing a fit in the grocery store and getting the dirty looks. It would have been nice for someone to say, this will get better. We probably all have been that parent. Any thoughts about empathy to add to the conversation, or examples of empathy like Susan has shared that could be just a quick smile and might change something for somebody?
I think one of the things that definitely could help is just obviously in the other person's shoes. Try and be down there with them, like, hey, you're in that dark valley together, and hey, man, I've been through that too. Whatever you need, kind of, I'm there to help you out, whatever it is. But I like the last part of that video was saying, hey, you don't need a response, you need a connection. That's 1,000% true in my mind, because you can respond, and you don't know what that person wants to hear. That person, you think is going to hear this, and sometimes people are like, well, hey, I wish this person would have said this, and they didn't say it that right way, and they're just hurting. But at least that they're talking to you, that connection, that communication, that channel is open. Once that channel is open and water is able, or that truth is able to flow through to something, then that's grounds to build on. That's grounds to look at, things to help out. If you say the wrong thing of a response, there's never going to be a way to build that house. There's never going to be a way to build that connection with that person. So I feel, regardless of who it is, whether or not it's your oldest kid, is about to graduate high school, or it's your youngest, that little toddler, little baby, understanding like, hey, if you can make that connection, understanding everyone individual is different, but making those connections with it, I feel like that's the best way to have that empathy, because you can say a response and that's not what I really want to hear. It's really that making that connection. I feel like that's going to help out the most.
That's awesome. Thank you, Blake. Kimberly, I saw you unmuted. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, I love what you said, Blake. I think that connection is so important. And I love this video. And I feel like I'm a pretty positive person. And I've really tried to work on that last part, because I feel like for a while I would try to make someone feel better. So I think what Blake said about making that connection, if we're real with people and instead of trying to make them feel better, sit with them and how they're feeling, really listen. I think that's where you make a connection, because if we don't, someone's not going to be comfortable coming back to share with us, because they're going to feel that judgment, or they're going to feel like they aren't heard. So I think all we can do to create that connection is really important.
That is really powerful, Kimberly. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Glenda?
And I think a lot of people they're not looking for you to fix whatever's going on, because there's a good chance nobody really can fix it. So, it's like when you have to go to a funeral for a family member and you have 100 people come by, and it's just that, that one after the other of that sympathy. And after a while, you're just numb, and you're just going through the motions. But when you're right in the thick of things and somebody is actually walking it with you, then I think it's just so powerful. And I think it's okay to tell someone, I don't really know what to do. I don't know what to do to help you. I don't know what you need, but I'm gonna be here to do the good, the bad, the ugly, the whole thing with you. And as someone, we all have had those people who have stepped in, and sometimes it's the last person you really expect to do that. But you can think back and know, oh, I remember when so-and-so was really there for me. It wasn't just the verbal, oh, just, give me a call if you need anything. But they actually showed up with a casserole and a plant and a tissue and a hug. That's what you really remember. So remembering what helped you and try to be that for someone else, I think is really important.
I hear Glenda saying, pay it forward.
Be the one. Be the one.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's interesting too, because I think I hear a common thread again in everybody saying, we're not necessarily setting out to fix someone else's problem. We want to help them be resilient by being a connection for them. Even if that connection is, I just need to cry. And maybe you're going to sit next to me and, some of you might cry too. Some of you might just kind of look awkwardly off to the side while I cry, but I just need someone to be there while I cry. And so I think it's interesting. I'm going to skip to our next video, because I think it speaks a little bit to the idea of not necessarily trying to solve the problem. So let me share screen again. And
there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? We can...
Well, we feel like it is about the nail, right? Because we're looking from the problem, from the outside of the problem. And really, there's no clear-cut right or wrong way to respond to any stressor or situation. We all respond differently. We all have a different level of resilience depending on situations. We all have a different background, set of social skills, and set of protective factors in our life that set us up to respond differently. So while to us, it seems pretty clear cut that just, getting that nail out of there would probably relieve the pressure and stop snagging those sweaters. To her, that was not the answer. And so, stress is normal. We all experience stress, and we all need to talk about it. So what I would love to do is get your reactions to that video, but also hear everybody share one or two ways that they deal with stress. And I know for me, historically, my first answer for dealing with stress has been to do yoga. I haven't been able to do that recently, but I will get back to it. So I would love to hear all of your responses to that video and just one or two ways that you can share with the group of how you deal with stress.
I go because I gotta get out here, but like I said, one of the things kind of running, just kind of can mold some of the stress, but also sometimes it's not just that. There's the spiritual, the social, there's the physical. It's all levels of fitness. Your fitness doesn't mean how strong you are, but what about the social fitness? What about the mental fitness and that spiritual fitness? Like that's one of the things for me. Going to church sometimes can just change my day of how I'm viewing things and how everything's going. I could be in a terrible position, but the way how I deal with it is working at total fitness model. That total fitness of being the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and the social. Hang out with buddies. Those are the four things I feel are by far the best way to handle stress. Is just handling stress through fitness, whatever discipline of fitness there is. But at least that's something that I look at of what I do, and typically if we're just trying to get rid of stress and different things like that. But Joe, I just want to let you know, man, I gotta get going. Is there anything else you guys need me for right now, though?
I think we're good for tonight, Blake. We appreciate you being here, and I appreciate that you have another obligation. I will email you all the information from tonight and the link for next week as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to share too that Susan put in the chat, her idea is, put myself in, or at least imagine myself in your shoes, in someone else's shoes. It's not about that nail. Who else has some thoughts, reactions to the video, and ways that you handle stress?
Sometimes, Joe, when I feel like things are out of control, that I don't have a lot of control over. Sometimes then that's when I start organizing. Like it might be the junk drawer, it might be a linen closet or something, so that then I can step back and say, I had control over this. This piece of clutter is gone. And this I can check off my list as something that I could complete and control. And I agree with Blake, like just getting outside, whether it's just going outside and working in the flowers for a little while or going for a walk or something, but just to distract myself and, change my environment.
I think those are really great ideas. And I want to also point out that Susan put in the chat, venting with another empathetic mother is a great way for her to, kind of reset. So I appreciate you sharing that. Kimberly, I had seen that you had unmuted. Would you like to add something as well?
I kind of echo what Glenda said. Well, I love to be outside or run. That normally makes me feel better. But then I do like a good project. Like I watch a lot of HGTV, so I'll decide that I can do something, and it never takes an hour like it does on the TV show. But I do think Glenda's so right. Part of that is because I can at least be in control of that. And then it kind of gets my mind reset, thinking about other things. And I feel like that's really helpful.
Awesome. Anybody else have some reactions to the video or some ways that you handle stress in your life that you'd like to share with the group? I'm jotting all these down so I can send them in our follow-up email too.
For me, mine is not as wonderful. I wish I would do the projects and the crafts. Glenda talked to me about that. But sometimes for me, it's taken 20 minutes and listening to some loud, hard music and just disassociating from everything but the moment. Just taking a moment for myself, jamming out and not thinking about anything else. I mean, really hard music. So
Sarah and I have similar tastes in music, so
yes.
I know what she's talking about.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Susan added to the chat as well, just taking a shower. And you know what, Susan, I am 100% on board. I have been known to shower 3 times in the same day just because I need to step away for a minute and reset myself. So I appreciate you adding that. I don't know, Luana or Ivy, if you have anything you'd like to add. If you want to put it in the chat, you're welcome to, or you can unmute. But so far, we've got some ideas: venting to another empathetic person, shower, projects, crafts, yoga, listening to music. And Blake shared a total fitness plan focused on mental, social, physical, and spiritual wellness. And I love that he included social wellness, just hanging out with some friends, because we already know that social connections are one of the 5 protective factors that we're going to talk about next week. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I'm trying to make sure I'm respecting everybody's time, and it is almost 7. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to share some resources with you. But while I'm doing that, if you have something you want to add to the chat, feel free. If you want to unmute and just talk, go ahead. Ivy, I see that you unmuted. Would you like to add to the conversation?
I was just going to answer your question about stress relief. Recently, I started going back to the gym, and I noticed because sports and stuff was a big part of my life before I graduated from high school. And then when I got to college, I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. So I'm trying to get back to exercising and doing that. So that's been a huge stress relief. I also call my mom or call my best friend and just talk for however long. So
that's awesome. Both of those are, all of those are great examples. All right, let me share my screen again. And we're going to zip down here to a few resources. And I'm gonna send you guys the links to those videos that we watched today too. And so one of the resources, again, that we offer here at One Place is Triple P Online. Triple P is the positive parenting program, and it puts you in control so you can do this online, and that gives you the opportunity to choose strategies that fit for your family between the 2 age groups that are offered. You can do your coursework anywhere, anytime. You can do it 24/7. We've had some people who joined us in Back Porch Chats who have completed Triple P and had some really great things to say. It gives you the opportunity to work at your own pace. And if you'd like to print a graduation certificate, you're welcome to do that. Another really important piece to notice is that Triple P Online is free for all parents in North Carolina. So you can get to Triple P Online through our website or through the Triple P website. One of the things I like to point out to people is when you begin the registration process, you're going to see what you see here at the bottom of my screen. The pink arrow I added, so you won't see that. But you will need to select between one of these 2 age groups. So we have an age group for toddlers to tweens, and then we have preteens to teens. Now you can register for both. You may have somebody in your life who is a teen and somebody who's a toddler, but you will need to select at least one age group when you're registering. And then if you want to select the second age group, you can register again and select that age group. The other thing that I like to make sure that people take a peek at is what we call our Child Care Resource and Referral, or CCR&R training calendar. And although many people believe that our training calendar is for early educators only, I would say to you, it certainly is for early educators. It's also for citizens. It is also for families. It is also for parents. And so we have a lot of things on our calendar that people can benefit from, whatever your reason is for seeking it out. And so you can go to our website, oneplaceonslow.org. You're going to select for parents and early educators, and then you're going to click on the training information and registration, and then you'll select the calendar and registration button. And then finally, we do have more Back Porch Chats coming up. So next Wednesday and then the last Wednesday of the month, we will still have Back Porch Chats at 6 o'clock. Next week, we will have a Back Porch Chat that focuses on concrete supports and social connections. And so we'll have 2 protective factors to talk about. I will send the link out to you, but also I encourage you to follow us on Facebook and look for the link, that the post that will come out on Monday that has the link on it. So again, I appreciate everybody so much for being here. I would love to continue the conversation. I'm happy to stay online and answer questions. I wish that we had hours and hours and hours to go into each one of these protective factors, but I just am so excited to be able to spend this hour with you guys. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to add as we're wrapping up? Glenda?
I was just going to say thank you for doing these. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Glenda. And Susan said thank you also. So I appreciate that.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
Is the Triple P parenting class that you guys offer the same as the Triple P parenting class that Peers does?
The curriculum is the same. Ours is online.
Okay. Because I know the Peers class, I have a couple of clients now that want to participate in it, but they can't because their kids are placed out of the home.
Got you. Well, you certainly can just either give me a call or respond to the email that I send you tomorrow, Ivy, and we'll get them registered.
All right, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Susan, I know you are so busy with your child there who's with you, and I appreciate you too, that you're joining us and you're coming back, asking great questions. And Luana, thank you so much for being here tonight too. All right. Well, as I said, I'll hang out for anybody who wants to keep hanging out.
Oh, it's the family right here. You want to kill the recording?
Thank you, Sarah. I had forgotten about that.
Mm-hmm.